Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We just want 2 more minutes to everybody who joined the call late. So thank you for the patience of the early comers. Just to kick off the call, please click on the 3 buttons on the right side next to my name and press so that you don't miss out on any of the graphics that the team put together. Just make sure that the screen is pinned. Fantastic. So firstly, by way of introduction, my name is Lanae Richards and I am a branch manager at Z, which is a division of the VAT IT group, but also I'm a third-year article trainee. So just like you, I've been in your position, I've been where you are, I've felt the emotions that you are feeling right now, and so that's what makes me so exciting for this webinar, is because I'm going to wish I knew when I was in your position and what I've learned in the process of where I am. So with the end of your studies, we realized that there is quite a bit of ambiguity and lack of awareness around the different options you have and what is available for you when it comes on your article route and ultimately on your future. So we'd like to take this opportunity to shed some light on what your options are and what is relevant to you so that you can make a wise decision. I hope that I can also guide you with a few questions so that you can start asking the. Can we get an idea of what year you all are in? It would be great to chat box and just give us some indication. Is the more CPA or are you in third year? Is there a few first years that are ambitious and ready to make decisions for their articles? Love to know. And then third years that are joining us, this is really still relevant to you. The earlier you start to your decision or reconsidering the choices that you've already made, the better chance of you having a fulfilling article period. So I see there's quite a few BCTA, CTA, PGDA. That's fantastic. CTA is amazing. Thank you guys. It's great to see where you guys are from. So let's jump into the agenda. In this webinar, we want to discuss the differences between tip and top, kind of redefining the norm and debunking the common terms, looking at CA 2025 and important for you, what it actually means for you, the VAT IT CA program, and then a Q&A session. So any uncertainties you have, and I promise we will do this live. You can type those questions in the chat. See, we have a 9th year joining us here. Welcome, Race. Okay, so a lot of students, including myself at the time, come out of university believing that the only viable way to get that CA designation is by going to an auditing firm. And you're completely unaware of the many options in commerce and industry. So we'd like to debunk that myth and provide you more information that you need to be able to make an informed and calculated decision about the future. So you need to ask yourself the question, what is the purpose of my articles? And what do I personally want to get out of it? And this is a very, very question. So I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. Done. Great. So we all have our accounting degrees, but we're all different with different aspirations and different interests and different skills and different so the exciting part of it is that you are at the brink of your journey and the world is your oyster. That is, it's true. Get excited. You just need to make sure that you weigh up all the considerations to get where you want to be as efficiently as possible. There's no same mold suited for everyone. There's no one size fits all. And at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own success. In the hope of helping you discover your ideal article route, let's dive into 6 specific questions about your future. You'll probably get the most out of this if you take a piece of paper and kind of jot down your immediate thoughts, but it's not going to be hectic essay questions or life-determining existential ones. Don't stress. So let's start with the end in mind. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You've wrapped up ABC and you have it under the belt. What happens after the champagne has popped and the celebrations are finished? Do you see yourself still working at the firm where you did your articles? And if not, what are the consequences of that? Will you need to start over at a different organization? Let's go on. Now, let's bring it a bit closer to where you are now. What would you say is your absolute favorite module? For me, it was management, decision-making and control, strategy, risk. I thrived in imagining building a business and growing it. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I did much better in other modules like auditing or tax. This will essentially give you a preliminary indication of where your passion lies. And don't stress, you don't need to have your entire life figured out now. Trust me, you'll only really know when it gets to your articles. What gets you out, jumping out of bed in the morning. There's real life after the modules that you do at varsity. Question 3. Is the article program that you had in mind conducive to your skills and your interests and your abilities? Does it provide you with enough scope and freedom to discover your passion? About that. What's the size of that article program? Will you stand out and have the opportunity to be heard and initiate change and chase goals? Or is there an extent of red tape that you need to be aware of? What will make your journey as an article clerk meaningful in terms of your future career goals? Will it prepare you for the exact position that you are aiming to one day fulfill? And here's the final, most crucial question rather. What is the opportunity cost of your route? So let's look at the different routes that hopefully caters to what you have here between tip and top. Considering that you have a pretty good idea of what you want out of your articles and what you love, you can essentially either go fulfill that at a tip or a top company. And we all know what your traditional tip or training inside public practice entails. Historically, it's the more conventional auditing route. So that one might take towards qualifying as a CA. Generally, this is offered by large accounting and auditing firms like the Big Four. And chances are that the uncle or mother or sibling that inspired you to take this route took this tip route. It really is the only option they had. Fast forward to 2006, when the training outside public practice was reintroduced. According to Cyca's research, which they published in an article titled Top, the Pinnacle of Success for CAs, they mentioned that over 70% of CAs registered with Cyca leave the conventional auditing in public practice after qualifying only to practice in commerce and industry. So the question really is, and I promise this is the last one, are you part of that 70%? If so, Cyca's additional program basically just saved you 3 years and significant retraining. So you can specialize in industry where you want to pursue your career. So let's break it down. Tip. This would mean that you would be specializing in auditing for 3 years. That would be a great place to go to, would be the Big Four, PKF, BDO, Moore, the list goes on and on. I'm not preferring one above the other, but there's a lot of companies that you can go to. Then we have training outside of public practice, which is specializing in commerce and industry. So this would be perhaps specializing in tax at SARS, or going more into the finance, which would be Allen Gray, Investec. You could do management, decision-making and control. That would be more of a ShopRite. And then you have companies that kind of tailor to a mixture of the above. And in my example, that's VAT IT. That's where I'm currently doing my articles. Let's look at CA 2025 and how that would be applicable, having kind of what we just discussed in mind. So CICA CA 2025 competency framework came into practice last year, and it's adopted by all the training officers around the country. This means that it applies to every single one of you on this call, whether you're a third year, PGDA, CTA, or ninth year. That means that this directly impacts you, right? So the purpose of the new professional framework is to adequately prepare CAs for careers in future forward labour markets. CICA's objective is partly to create a sustainable value for a wide range of stakeholders. To this end, the updated competency framework is placing a stronger emphasis on the development of integrated thinking. So that's the interpretation, the analysis, and the evaluation of not only financial, but also non-financial information. So as our team brings the slide up, I'm going to read with you which skills CA 2025 foregrounds. Digital skills, bearing in mind the influence of emerging tech in the role of future accountants. Breaking out of the traditional silo-based organization of knowledge and using business acumen to frame tech competencies. The development and understanding of personal, business, and professional ethics, not just the professional ethics as in the past. Developing integrated thinking as a key outcome with a wider focus on decision-making acumen. And lastly, a carefully balanced marriage between tech and non-tech skills for the development of well-rounded CAs. So you can just imagine the firms in commerce and industry, including VAT IT, absolutely welcome the change from the traditional competency framework as we are well aligned with this new CA 2025 framework. I've been going on about the VAT IT CA program, so let me just introduce you to it briefly, what it offers and why personally I will never look back at the decision that I made when I was basically in the majority of your positions. At VAT IT, we have a CICA accredited CA entrepreneurship program within the top route. So it's focused on entrepreneurship and management decision-making to build CA leaders of the future. I'm sure you have similar questions to what I had when I was in your position. So let me take you through that to help you understand it. I bet you have the same first question. Who is VAT IT? VAT IT is the largest company in the world, a world-leading service provider within the VAT reclaim, compliance, and corporate regulation, with 20,000 clients and 50% Fortune 500 companies in 107 different countries. It's essentially a multi-billion-dollar company with a global footprint. Will you be doing tax? Absolutely not. Our program was born from the idea that being a CA is much more than just understanding numbers. It's about leadership and innovation, creativity and entrepreneurship, all the pillars that the business stands for. They created the program because they believe that it's the perfect environment to nurture and foster the growth of CAs of the future. CAs that will stand out and be the catalyst of growth in their organization. No pressure. So your articles will be something like this. You'll have rotation through a thriving business and the diverse sister companies with first-class exposure to the real dynamics and operations of a business. Typically, you'll have an extent of managerial positions and responsibilities, spearheading the initial stage projects and rotating in unique different departments. But every article clock's journey is completely different. So you'll work closely with leaders and top managers, many who are CIs just like you, who genuinely build your character and invest in your growth, ultimately being a leader or a mentor for your success. There are more than enough social events internally, like paddle and month ends and year ends, as well as external like Jackass events, which help you to build relationships with like-minded and ambitious people. We also have hockey and netball and cricket that you can also partake of if that's your thing. It really is an uplifting environment and it really cultivates style by working with these brilliant people. And as you'll see in a bit, you'll have the opportunity to speak face-to-face to CFOs, CEOs, and learn from the entrepreneurs who built this company. They know you by name and they recognize your talents and they value your input. Typically, by the end of the program, you've been exposed to so many different roles that you find your niche, if I can call it that, and just kind of move into that leadership position at the end of your articles. But look, at the end of the day, I can only really speak to my own experience. When VAT IT came across my path, I was already signed at a great firm, which is in the tip route. And I entertained the thought of perhaps looking to a change in my path, and soon realized that the entrepreneurship program really more caters to my personal interests. And that's why I started this off by asking you, what's your interest? It seemed to provide a space for me to excel in the areas where my passion was. And so after parting on a good note with the firm where I was signed, my journey at VAT IT kickstarted. And my first rotation, believe it or not, was actually group auditing. So I did it for 3 weeks, and I think they realized that that's not my main passion. So Justin, the CEO of TechX, essentially called myself and 2 other top trainees closer to research a new business idea. And Z, which is the company where I work now, was born from the research and development that we did in the Titan meeting room here at TechX, where we basically built the entity. And day in and day out, we sat with the CEO and the CFO and the COO of TechX, who genuinely relied on our research and they valued our input. So when I returned after a short ITC break, I fulfilled the sales position. And to this day, I don't think that there is a more challenging and rewarding role that any person will ever be in. It honestly puts you miles ahead in life general. So again, it was 2 top trainees and a CEO who spearheaded the growth of this new company called Z through sales and ultimately bringing in all the capital to finance and drive the business. Thankfully, we experienced exponential growth and recruited more hands to help. With this, my role changed to the head of client success executive, where I essentially managed a team of 7 lawyers, all my senior. And I remember going into a phase where I was kind of doubting this first-year trainee managing this group of phenomenal professionals who are all older than I am. And after a leadership summit that we had at the Marriott Hotel in Melrose Arch, for those who know, it's around the corner from where we work, I walked with Justin and I told him, I kind of brought up this doubt that I had. And he said something that will forever stick with me, and I hope that it sticks with you too, is if you are good enough, you are old enough. And that really speaks a lot about the culture here at VAT IT. So eventually there was a CSE who we could train up, and she led the team absolutely amazing. So I could go on to my next rotation, which was the head of international events, something that is so different and unique. I could have never imagined that I would walk into that. So without giving you my entire LinkedIn responsibilities list, it basically entails project management, planning trips, managing the team abroad, and using international events as a lead generation source for the company. So this was everything from White Label Expo in Frankfurt to going to networking events in Vegas, going to Austin for $1 billion seller summit, and many more events that we went to in London and New York and Los Angeles, San Francisco, etc. I promise we do work hard. The role overlapped with my final rotation, which is where I'm now, and that's a branch manager. And this basically entails helping $1 million brand owners abroad to expand into new international marketplaces and managing the team that forms part of my branch. I'll wrap it there to not bore you too much. But if you want more detail, head over to my LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to connect. There's an entire experience section if you want to see more into a life of somebody that's done this top program. So, is it for you? Do you have a knack for business? Are you hardworking more than you might bring up in an interview as your weakness? Do you thrive in a startup? Are you comfortable with being uncomfortable in positions of growth? Are you creative and driven? Are you ready to innovate, collaborate, and lead? And if so, you'll fit right into VAT IT, which is made of a community of challenge seekers, innovators, and entrepreneurs. So my very biased opinion, top up your game. I will never look back.